Yeah, for those who just joined, welcome to everybody. This is Sri. I'll be the moderator and also the co-presenter for the webinar, the GDPR series at the Freshworks, and we'll primarily focus on the fresh sales attributes of the things we have done here, for you to kind of use into your sales teams, right? So we'll have about another 2 minutes. In the meantime, we'll probably do a quick check in terms of kind of a quick, I would say, the housekeeping activities with respect to the webinar software we're using here. If you have any questions, feel free to raise your hands at any period of time. We want to see you kind of raise your questions. We want to keep the session very interactive, and we'll make all attempts to answer your questions during the webinar. And if we miss out any of them, you could be rest assured that that we will reach out to you through email to answer them. So we love to hear from you. So please keep the questions coming in, right? We also are recording this session, and you will receive an email from us after the webinar with a link, which you could probably use it to share within your team or anybody else who you think would be interested in knowing information about the GDPR, right? So we are all set now. I hope you could, I'm going to kind of share the presentation as well, right? I'm sure we have just flashed the screen there. You will see the webinar series, the GDPR, the deck being shown right there. So let me quickly introduce the presenters here. I'm Sri, the head of the product for the fresh sales. I also have Vijay with me, the engineering manager for the CRM product, the fresh sales here. I also have Vinay, who's the PM for the GDPR activities here, right? So quickly on the agenda here. So we're going to primarily focus on the GDPR, like what's GDPR in terms of a brief there, and mostly we're going to drive this whole session as the Q&A. We have actually kind of tried to collect the most common questions we have heard in the last 3 or 4 months, like from the customers with respect to GDPR, and we also think that these questions are also in your mind. We're going to take you through that, and like Vinay will also kind of walk you through the product in the middle, and we're going to have a very deep kind of conversation with like Vijay on the intricacies of how we have handled this, and probably a little bit of perspective in terms of the the whole data protection, like how it has changed after GDPR, right? And in the end, we'll be taking all the questions from you, and we'll be happy to answer them all, right? So moving on, before we start on the GDPR, I think we're going to just run a quick poll in your screen. You want to, we want to kind of get to know some answers there. Does GDPR require the customer data to remain in EU? This is one question, one of the most common question we have heard from our customers. I want to see, like what do you think about it? Feel free to give your answer, and we will use that in our session in the middle, and you might see a couple more questions coming in. And like as I mentioned a little earlier, please keep this session very interactive. Please ask any questions you have in your mind, and we are here to kind of answer them all, right? And just to welcome everybody who just joined. I'm Sri, and we're just getting started with the GDPR series of webinar at the Freshworks, and we are focusing on the sales product here today, right? Let me start with the most generic question, which has been around for the last 3 to 4 months now, right? What is GDPR? And the poll is still in progress in your screen, and we see a few people, few of the folks who are answering them. Thanks for those answers. We're going to kind of have it for a couple of minutes there. We see a lot of good answers there, a lot of positive ones. We're just closing the poll now. Okay, thanks for everybody for answering that question there. So that was pretty good and insightful there. So let me start off with the most generic question we have seen through in the last couple of months. I think if you look at GDPR, right, GDPR has been one of the biggest updates on the data protection law in EU. probably in the last 20-25 years, right? I think that's been a big impact, has been the biggest update which has happened for the data protection law, probably I would say across the globe. And if you look at the crux of GDPR, it's been designed to increase the protection of the personal data for all the EU kind of residents, regardless, kind of where you where you try to collect the data or store it. Which means that if you are kind of trying to collect the personal information about the EU citizens across the globe, meaning and if you're situated anywhere in the world, there's going to be impact for you on that, right? And that's the GDPR in the cracks, right? And the next most common question is that will GDPR affect your sales teams, right? And when the whole GDPR thing came out, I think one of the most, probably the biggest impact has been for the sales team, because they've been doing the outreach, they've been collecting a lot of data in terms of, for the prospecting and all the other activities, right? I would say if you're an individual or if you're doing business with all individuals or that, the companies, kind of regardless of the origin, right? And if you collect the data and you're trying to process the data from the kind of the whole citizens, you need to be compliant with the GDPR. And GDPR has been effective from the from the May kind of last month. And this is the most common question in mind, whether the GDPR will impact my sales team, right? And if you can kind of see through the data which you're collecting, and if you have data or if you're doing business with any of the the citizens, you have to be compliant with GDPR and you'll take it pretty seriously as well, right? The implications are pretty high, and if you don't do the process and the data information required, right? Moving on, this is another big question, and we also did a poll on that, and you also see the answer here. Does GDPR require the data to stay in EU, right? And in the audience, we see a good 70% of them have said no, which is great. I think which means that we're talking to folks who are aware of GDPR, who are also aware of the GDPR compliance attributes to a great extent, right? Which means if you are a customer and if you're kind of using tools and software, which are dealing with, the EU, the data part of it, the personal data of the EU citizens, you don't have to host it in EU, but the GDPR, has they have actually come out with the clear requirements for the transfer of data, when it comes to outside EU. And we'll probably talk about it a little more. I think I'm going to bring in Vijay here. Vijay, can you kind of throw some light in terms of the impact of this clear act? Because I know the transfer of data has been a very critical path in terms of the product here or elsewhere. So can you kind of throw some lights in terms of the details of the GDPR making an impact there, specifically on the transfer of data from the EU?
So as Sri was mentioning that it doesn't require the data to be stored in EU, but what it requires is the data has to be, there is a provision in GDPR where it requires us to have the necessary protection in terms of the data being transferred. So they have certain expectations. There is a EU-US Privacy Shield certification requirement there. So at Freshworks, in Fresh Sales as well, we take data security very seriously, and we are having the data encrypted at rest and also in transit. And we use AES-256 encryption algorithm to do that. And so there you go.
Yeah, cool. So in terms of the transfer of data, I think like Vijay mentioned, I think both in transfer at rest, I think it is critical. And in fact, the GDPR has now come out with a very clear the requirement. But as a product within Freshworks, probably all the product at Freshworks, we keep very high standards for data in terms of transfer and at rest storage, right? That's on the data center. And just to give a note here, with respect to Fresh Sales, we do have the the data option of choosing from the the data center EU. You could still do it in Fresh Sales. We have data center both in the EU as well as in US. So just to give you that information here. And the next big question is that how does GDPR affect my sales team, right? And so I think this was one conversation, like I was having with one of my customers, right? like we've been having this conversation, and this is something which came up where the assumption which we had in the past, right, with respect to the data which we have. For example, in the past, if you had an email address of anybody, you thought you had the permission to send them an email, right? That's something which is not going to exist anymore. Which means if you are running a business where you're collecting, information about people, into your CRM and trying to send them an email, you have to look at the GDPR compliant very seriously, right? Similarly, now with the GDPR, also kind of opens up, like various options for the customers to also ask questions. They could actually voluntarily come and ask you or place few kind of requests, like they want to opt out of a particular email campaign, they wanted you to kind of delete, or they wanted you to update a particular record which is about them, right? Or they wanted to completely, copy the data out of your system. So these are the kind of a new request which is coming in, and also the GDPR would mandate that we be able to facilitate these requests, right? So which means as a sales team, you have to be cognizant to these requests and also be very sensitive when you collect the data in terms of leads or people information from the citizens, right? And even more, sensitive when you send emails out. So, as a rule of thumb, you cannot send the unsolicited email anymore, right? And so when I hear, who's a product manager who has kind of tried to build few key features here to enable customers to be able to complain as a CRM. So you could use Fresh Sales and still be able to do some of this communication in a more compliant form. And we're going to kind of take you through that in the next couple of slides with a quick demo there. So I'm going to have kind of Vinay take over here. Probably he's going to kind of deep dive into the product, quickly walk you through how you could do some of these critical activities, I would say, and post that we'll probably take questions and we'll be back. Over to you, Vinay.
Thank you, Sri, for that. Yeah. So as Sri mentioned, now if you have an email ID, you can't just send an email to that. So post GDPR, that will all change. You need to have lawful basis to send email, and the most common form of lawful basis that will affect or that will be appropriate for sales team is consent. So as a best practice, whenever you are collecting data or collecting leads or generating leads, you need to also take consent from the lead that why you are taking their data, right? So there are many ways in which lead can be generated. So one is few are like website, trade shows, white paper download, and business cards also. So whenever you are taking collecting leads from all this, you need to also make sure you collect consent. So let us consider an example of collecting lead information via contact us web form hosted on your website, right? So how does it work? Earlier, whenever you had a web form or a contact us web form on your website, the opt-in checkbox was optional, or in most cases they were pre-tick checkboxes. GDPR makes it very clear that pre-tick checkboxes won't work as a consent anymore. You want unchecked checkboxes on your contact us web form where you are collecting personal information, right? So just let me show you how you can create a contact us web form on in Fresh Sales that is GDPR compliant. Right. So just go to the admin settings page, scroll down to the web form, and click on create and view form. Right. So I already have a contact us web form here. I'm just going to delete it and create a new one to show how it's created. So just click on create web form. Here you can name your web form. I think most of you would know this. This is the area where you select whether you want to include or not include the opt-in checkbox. And remember, opt-in checkbox are only required when you are collecting personal information of the lead. Since contact us is a lead generation form, I assume you are collecting all the name and usual personal information, and you would need an opt-in checkbox. And this is a editable text area where you can state the purpose why you are collecting the data, like for your sales or for the communication purpose. I'm just writing here communication on newsletters and events. Right, here are the things you want to collect. I'm just keeping it as it is, and this is the title of your web form. Right, and once done, just save it. I'm just gonna show you how to collect this web form. Like, this is how it will be shown to the customer. So I'm just entering my data here. And this is the key feature we have introduced, or one of the main features we have introduced for the GDPR, right? Earlier, we didn't have an option to include an opt-in checkboxes. Now we also have an opt-in checkboxes that directly map to the do not disturb field. Right, once, okay, I have given my consent and now I'm submitting the form. I'll just search my name. It should have come into the system by now. Yeah, it's there. And as you can see here, the lead was created and you also have a record of your consent. So GDPR says multiple things about consent, right? First one is it shouldn't be pre-ticked. You should give the notice, or you should state the purpose of why you are collecting the consent. You have both here. It's not pre-ticked, and you also have a space to give the state the purpose. And the third thing it says is it should be recorded. It should be showable or retrievable. So this is where we are storing the information of the consent. GDPR also says a consent should be a customer should at any given time should be able to unsubscribe from the email campaigns or the things he has opted in. So I'll also show you that how that will work. So I'm just gonna send an email to this new lead here. So I'm gonna open my inbox and see. Oh, I think I missed the unsubscribe link here. Okay, I'm gonna send it again. Sorry for that. Yeah, this is where you can add unsubscribe link. This is what I need to do. Once you click on add unsubscribe link, the unsubscribe link will be given and the contact will be able to unsubscribe at any given time, right, from via emails. So I got the email again, and once I click on the unsubscribe, you are successfully unsubscribed. Let me check how it's reflected. So yeah, lead unsubscribe via email. So these are the things we built in. We have a audit trail, or we have a record of all every time a lead subscribes or unsubscribe and by which source they unsubscribe, if it's within fresh sales, right? So, and you can also see here the lead score. Okay. Yeah. So this was how you get opt-in through our web forms, or how you collect lead information that is in compliance with GDPR. So next one is, what is the recommend way to get opt-in permission? So this is the one way you can get opt-in permissions, right? But usually it's recommended to have set up double opt-in process. So we have gotten a lot of queries.
Even just to ask you a question, like what is double opt-in process? Can you just talk about it a little bit?
Sure, Shri. So double opt-in is basically a process where an individual should confirm their interest twice. So usually the first opt-in, if you are using a contact us or any web form, usually the first confirmation happens in the web form and the second confirmation happens in their inbox or via email. So why this is done is this act as a robust mechanism and add a extra protective layer. So anyone shouldn't be able to come and enter anyone else's email ID. So when you send the second, or when you get the second consent, right? First you get a consent via web form, and second is via email. You send the email to a person's inbox or the entered email ID's inbox, and you make sure the person who has entered the email address has the access to the inbox also. And that way you are making sure not any spam email IDs or unwanted email IDs are entered, and you have the consent properly.
Cool. So just to have a quick follow on that, so which means that just to also just to repeat or just to get to my understanding there, which means that the sales prospecting teams, right, who've been sending mass emails, the recommendation would be for them to do the whole double opt-in. And I'm assuming that you're going to kind of you're going to kind of see us through those steps and probably how we could achieve that, with fresh sales now, right? So given the double opt-in, what are the various functionalities in fresh sales can help you achieve that? Can you also talk about that a little bit, like as you show the demo of that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'll show now how to set up the double opt-in and what are the different things you need to do to set up a double opt-in in fresh sales. Right. So I'll just give you a quick overview. The first thing is you need to have a custom field for the initial opt-in. You need to have a template to send the confirmation email. You need to have a web form. I'm again using the same contact us form here. So you need to have a web form and you need to use workflow to automate it. Right? Workflow, you have a workflow which basically tells you every time a lead is entered via web form, you send an email, the confirmation email to him. Right? I'll just quickly show you how to do that. First, I'll just go to lead fields and create a checkbox called, I have already created that. I'm just showing you, I have named it as initial opt-in, and it's a checkbox type opt-in. Just keep that. Next, I'll go to the email templates and create a template called confirmation email. I already created that. I'm just going to show you how it is. And this is where you add a unsubscribe or subscribe link. So we also have a you also have an option to include subscribe link in fresh sales. This was also introduced recently in compliance or to help people to comply with GDPR. Oh, sorry.
So Vinay, I think if I kind of heard you right, which means that what you're saying is that you don't have to use any other additional tool to get the whole email opt-in, right? Which between like using the workflows, the email templates, and
Yeah,
the sales campaign, right? All together could work like all together for you to enable the whole the prospecting activity much more productive. That's what we were kind of working to.
right, Shri. You don't need anything. Fresh sales is all you would need to require. So I also created already a form. I'll just tell you how it is created. So it's a web to lead form. You don't, so in double opt-in process, you don't include the opt-in checkbox here. But what you do is you include the initial opt-in, the custom field I created initially. You include that here. And I'll just show you how to include that. I'll just delete it. And so initial opt-in was what, and you rename it. So here you here you give the purpose of why you are collecting the opt-in. So I'm just saying here for newsletter and events, right? And by default, it should be marked as no. Once you have created a, a custom field and have included it in your web form, just save the web form. Let's show you how the web form will look. Again, I'm creating another lead with my name. Before I enter the data, I'll just show you what I have done on workflow side also. I think I missed that. So once you have created web form, email template, and custom field, you also need a workflow saying send confirmation email. So what this workflow does is every time a lead is created and lead source is web form, and also we created a initial opt-in custom field. This is S. So whenever a lead is created from web form and he has opted in initially, you send a confirmation email, and you can also add other conditions if you want and other actions if you want here. So this is the workflow. As just set it to execute once and when the record is created. So once you do that, every time a lead is created through this web to lead form, I'll get an email for confirmation. So this is the type of email I will get. So I showed you the template. This is the same template. And once your lead clicks on subscribe me, he will be subscribed in Fresh Sales also. So I'll just show you how it will look. This is how it will look, right? A new task is created, a confirm your email address, mail is sent, and lead is clicked, and he's subscribed via email. So this is what the double opt-in process is. You take opt-ins twice. And you also have your recorded consent on our activities timeline. So one thing she also talked about was GDPR giving additional or enhanced rights to EU citizens. So after GDPR, the EU citizens can have special requests, like they can request for you to completely delete their data from all their systems. They can request you to update your lead or rectify their information you have inside Fresh Sales. They can also request to export request for a complete copy of their data you have inside or you have with you. So we have made all these things very easy in Fresh Sales. We have introduced all options to comply with all of this. So I'll just show you how you can achieve each of these requests through Fresh Sales. So I'll consider the same lead I entered here. So suppose this lead, tells me he needs a copy of all his data in Fresh Sales. So you just need to go to the leads landing page, click on the more options, and hit export. That's it, and you will receive an email with all his data we have in your Fresh Sales. We have with us in Fresh Sales. So second request they can make is they can request to be unsubscribed at any point of time. So you already have an option of including unsubscribe link in your email. So, but not everyone clicks on that unsubscribe, or people might call you and tell you remove me from your system, or they can just reply to those emails, right? We also made it very easy to unsubscribe manually for a sales agent. So you, again, just go to the more options and click unsubscribe, and the lead will be unsubscribed. You can see lead was unsubscribed. Record export was also done. That is also captured. Right. And the third request he can make is to be completely permanently deleted from all of your system. So if you want to delete to honor those for delete request, you can just go here and click on forget. So forget is an option that will permanently and completely delete the leads data from Vasquez, which is in compliance with GDPR. That means it will be deleted from everywhere, and there won't be any single trace of the lead that you had inside. You click a yes, and the lead will be deleted. So these are the special requests and how you can handle them in Vasquez. So other than that, you can also have you might also have the question, right? How can I get consent for call recording in Vasquez? So usually you get consent to send emails, to make calls. You don't get consent for, most of the times you don't get consent to record the calls, right? So what we have done is, this is the usual scenario. So what we have done is, we have built an ability wherein you can start recording the call during an ongoing call. So if so what this does is, you can make the call. You have consent to just make the call and not record the call, right? So you can make the call, you can ask for the consent on the call, and if they have given their consent, and then start recording the call. So you can see here, I have just highlighted it. There's a red dot beside the duration. If you just click on that, the call will start recording. So again, you can take consent and start recording the call in Vasquez. And the next thing is, we have also made few changes on how you can make sure that all of your whole of your sales team is in compliance with GDPR, right? So one thing we can do is, we have also introduced that one thing we had did is, we have introduced a setting in Vasquez saying you can restrict users from sending email when the lead and contact has unsubscribed, right? Before that, let me just tell you what happens when a lead is unsubscribed. When a lead is unsubscribed, right, you don't send any emails. I'll just unsubscribe. Oh, the lead is already unsubscribed. We don't send any emails. Won't get sent via bulk email. No emails will be sent via sales campaign. No email will be sent via workflows. But if a sales agent is sending an individual email to a unsubscribed lead, we'll just show a warning. I'll just show you the warning, how it comes. Okay, I think anyway, I'll come back to that later. But as I was saying, you won't be able to, the bulk emails won't go, the sales campaign email won't go, the workflow emails won't go, and you will just get a warning. So you have an additional setting here in CRM settings. Prevent Vasquez users from sending email to those leads or contact where do not disturb is turned on, which means the lead has unsubscribed. If you mark this, they won't even be able to send emails. Currently, we just give a warning for individual emails, but they still can be, they still are able to send emails. You just saw email went to an unsubscribed link, but once you do this, we
yeah, I think like as when I just running through the demo, we just have another question to poll, and it's probably going to help us and also kind of share the insight all. So the question or the poll is that, do you think GDPR will reshape your sales process and approach? Right, that's it's an important question, and if you guys can give your inputs, that will be very useful. We're going to take a minute here and try to see if we can get some of your responses here. We see a lot of questions coming in, so thanks for everybody for actively participating. We definitely would encourage more questions coming in. We're going to keep good 15 minutes in the end for the Q&A. Feel we love to see the questions coming anyway. So we've got some good questions now. So we're gonna close the poll, and then we're gonna have Vinay take over back. Vinay, all yours.
Yeah. So thanks, Shri. As I was saying, if you turn on the setting, you won't be able to send a email to a lead or a contact who has unsubscribed. And the next setting is you can also restrict who can export customer data via reports. So this is, to just have a tighter control or just have a more control on the customer data you have. If we have an option to export all the leads and contacts data via reports in a CSV format, if you don't want anyone misusing that, or just you just want to make sure no one takes that data out of fresh sales, you can just turn that off, and agents will only be able to access the reports and not download them, right? And also next thing you have is you can restrict who can forget a lead or a contact. So forget is, again, as I was mentioning earlier, permanently deleting a lead or a contact. So if you don't want anyone accidentally clicking on forget, or if you're or if you don't want anyone accidentally clicking it, or you want just few people who will take the request, analyze the request, and only then delete the data if it's really required, and then you can have the settings and give only access to forget to few people in your sales team. So all this is available in CRM settings and user settings. I'll just quickly show you where it is available. I showed you how to restrict sending emails. I'll show you how, when you're adding a user, you have a checkboxes. Okay, this is admin. If it's a user, you can see, you can allow access to reports and dashboard. You can allow exporting of your reports and dashboard. You can also allow access to forget the leads. I was saying this is how you can control this setting. So next thing is how, again, not only leads and contacts, right? If you have a sales agent who is from EU citizen, or you are based out of EU, then all the sales team would have the right, a right to request their data to be forgotten. So we also have a feature built in that will allow you to delete a sales agent completely from Festers as per GDPR requirement. Right? And how to do this inside the product, I'll just show you. Again, you can just go to the settings, user, you just click on, this is what we introduced recently. You click on the delete. So it will show you a warning saying only deactivate users can delete. You can click yes and it will deactivate right here. We have additional checks so that you don't delete anyone by mistake, and just click on delete and the user will be deleted.
So thanks, Vinay. Just to ask, just to get Vijay into the conversation, right? Vijay, can you just throw some light in terms of if I we used to have deactivate, we have options of deactivating the user for long now, right? By introducing the new forget option, right? Can you kind of give us a little bit of insights in terms of what is the difference, or like what happens under the hood when somebody does forget versus when they deactivate the user?
As you mentioned, Sri, that we used to have a deactivate. We still have the deactivate option where a user can be made as deactivated. But as per GDPR, we wanted to implement the forget user option where any information regarding the user, by information I mean all the personal identifiable information, PII, a name, IP address, or a mobile number, or whatever you want to have it as a PA information, what say you, but those information have to be completely deleted from the system and also from your sub-processes. By referring to sub-processor, I'm referring to all the other third-party services that we use internally and externally as well. And also, when you start thinking of a user, our fresh sales is built around sales agents. When a sales agent is entering into the system, he will have a lot of leads assigned to him, contacts, accounts, deals, and he'll be working on a lot of deals. And let's say that this person leaves the company and you want to delete this user. We also have to implement such a way that we don't impact the business, but still we have to comply with GDPR requirements. So we went back to the drawing board and started looking at what are the things that we store regarding the user, and what is required for the business and what is not required for the business. So when a lead is created into the system, the lead can be owned by a user, created by user, updated by user. Those information we had. Likewise, when a sales agent is actually working on the lead, he'll be creating a lot of sales activities around the lead. Example, he can have an appointment with the lead, a person, or he might have a lunch with the person, and he might check in it as a sales activity into the system. We have a sales activity as well. The customer sales agents can create any type of sales activities. So all these things are the sales agents related. He was involved in a appointment, a deal before, and now that he's deleted, the information should not be wiped off from the system, but his association with that particular appointment should be deleted. That is what we went about doing that. So we went and figured out all the possible areas where this information is of this agent is related to a particular record in the system. We systematically deleted one by one, and also we took extra precaution to ensure that the user information is not present in our logs, and also our logs are wiped off after a period of 30 days. And from our sub processes, we have, as per GDPR, we have 30 days time in which we are supposed to clean up, which we all have also ensured that.
Perfect, perfect, Vijay. I think this probably, in terms of the compliance part of it, this would cover the right to be forgotten aspect, right? Perfect. And also, just to add to that, Vijay, right? So, what are the, like, so when I was walking us through a couple of new product updates, for the existing capabilities and also kind of new ones, right? Have you extended all of them to our APIs?
Yes, we also have done that.
So, and I mean, I also see a couple of questions here. Just take one of them right away. So, in terms of smart forms, we have, I think, if just to give everybody a context here, in Fresh Sales, we have smart forms and the classic forms. Like what Vinay had briefly touched upon in the demo was the classic form, where you have the context form, where you kind of create, probably capture the lead information or the person information, and you try to automatically populate in the CRM, right? Similarly, if you're using a third-party farm and you still wanted to track, or probably wanted to capture the data from that farm into our Fresh Sales, right? And if you're using the smart farms, right? How do we get this opt-in, right? I'm sure there are a few customers, who are available, who are attending the webinar, as well as others, would want to know, how do I make the smart farms also compliant? So, do you have any suggestions there? So I think one thought is that to have a custom field, right? You want to kind of have that updated here. So I think like one option, I think what Vijay was mentioning here is to basically be able to arrange or probably order the lead creation, because today if you are doing the lead creation before the submit, probably of your existing form, you might have to reconsider having the submit form, after you have the opt-in like the property also captured, right? That is one option. And also feel free to reach out to our support. So we'll be happy to help you if you have any queries to make your existing forms also compliant to GDPR. So feel free to reach out to our support team, and we'll be happy to help you there, right? And
particular to this question, I think it's more I think the question was asthmatic. I think the question was more towards there are three things that we support. One is we include the JavaScript, which is called Freshsales for Web. The second is we already support something called the smart forms. And as you said rightly, the smart forms, we collect the information for the form. There's no form as such. The JS basically tracks all the information from the form. If you are explicitly looking for explicit opt-in, then you should opt for the web forms. There are two options there, the classic forms and the other form. So I think you should try to use the other one, not the smart forms that you're mentioning, which is just built for automatically tracking the information from the form.
Yes, and it's more for capturing the activities on the website and having that transfer to Freshsales so that you could probably do activity-based lead scoring and probably have be able to prioritize your leads based on the behavior on the website and on the product, right? Moving on, which I think like one more question I want to ask you is a little bit on the user deletion, right? As you covered in terms of being able to forget information. I think one question there is that like what happens to emails? Because as a product for sales, we give a lot of importance to the conversation, be able to give the customer the context about like all the conversation is going through. So let's say I have a salesperson who has left my team, right? And this salesperson has closed multiple deals, right? And I don't want to delete them all, right? I'm sure we have an option to transfer those deals to others, but still, when I delete the, that particular user, can you be more specific on the emails which will be deleted, right? Can you kind of throw some light there?
Yeah, it's not just the emails, as Freshsales has a lot of other integrations as well. We have an inbuilt phone, and we have, as Sri was mentioning, that we have email as well. We also have chat, which is a Fresh Chat integration, and we also have all the custom sales activities that the sales agent is creating. So one more important thing to note here is the emails that the sales agent was having will be with a particular another sales agent, or it might be with a lead or a contact in the system. If there are a lot of people who are in the communication, if it's required for the business, then we do retain those emails. But all the other emails which the sales agent has done in the system will be completely deleted and it's completely wiped off from the system. There will be no trace of any email conversation that the sales agent had with the particular other person.
Cool. Thanks, Vijay, for that. Sharing that information. So, is moving on to the next one, right? In fact, we're going to kind of have move from here to the next slide. Yeah. So just one question there is that like how can I control my sales team handle the customer data? Which means that, for example, how do we bring in accountability into my team, right? Freshsales has role-based permissions. We also have enhanced that. We support encryption at rest of all associated account data and manage the data all through. Specific for this update, I think in Freshsales, you can restrict users from sending emails if the leads or contacts have for example, let's say we have a team which is basically also doing business with the European customers. You could actually enforce unsubscribe, or you can enforce the opt-in permission as a mandate, because we have brought in an admin settings where you could choose can specifically enable that, because if you look at the scenario before the GDPR, if the unsubscribe was enabled, or if for some reason the leader contact in Freshsales was unsubscribed, and if you try to send an email in the past, we would have a warning, but the customer could or the salesperson could choose to send an email. But now, being the GDPR being very sensitive, right? We have brought in admin settings where if the admin as a business, you have kind of made a choice to enable that or to kind of enforce to follow the opt-in option, emails would not be sent out. I think kind of Vinay briefly spoke about it, right? Right. So now we'll just talk about sales agent, and we're going to kind of quickly run through a few questions we have, right? And we'll just do a quick time check as well.
I think we have good.
Cool. So we'll do a quick time check. We got about good time limit. I think we have also good number of questions here. We're going to take them one at a time. So feel free to get your questions in, and we're going to share the last poll results now. So let's kind of if you can help me out with the poll results for the last one. Amazing. So we got about close to 70% of the business very clearly indicate that they think GDPR will reshape the whole sales strategy and the sales process. And we are hoping that fresh sales would be pivotal in that. So like fresh sales, a CRM has introduced about close to 12 enhancements and updates specific for the GDPR, and we think you can probably make use of some of them and be able to comply for GDPR, right? In general, I think just to before we take up the questions, I think as a product like fresh sales, we fully support the GDPR, and we think it's definitely a good thing, or it's probably the best thing which can happen to treat the customers and their data well with care and respect. I think that's one important thing here to note. And our mission is to help businesses like yours to create the better customer experience with the relevant information present for you, and be able to also be very fair and secure to use the personal data as well of your customers as well. I think that's been the key commitment towards the customer engagement as well. I want to make the statement and move into taking a few questions here, right? So we'll start off with the first question, very specific about like what will happen on the form, on the web form, if a person forgets to click the opt-in button. I think this is a very good question from Shari. I'm going to answer it in two parts. One is that if your customer or if your prospect doesn't opt in, which means that he doesn't click the opt-in button or checkbox, right, you should consider that he has not voluntarily opted in, right? Which means that as per GDPR, you probably shouldn't be able to connect with him through any of his email or phone conversation. That's the way I look at it. Or you could try to see, you could even have more than one option. You can probably make it create custom fields which are mandatory in the form, by which the form would not be submitted if they have not chosen that option. Let's say if you see that there are a few customers who are consistently not opting in, right? Instead of connecting with them, given the GDPR constraints, we would suggest that you go create a custom field and make it required, and then have the form and be live, so that when you have a customer filling it, he would have no option other than answering that question, right? The next question I would want to pick up is regarding data export. We have a few questions on data export here. One is, what format would that export be available, right? This question asked by Danny here. We would provide a zip format, and with all the CSV files in it. The format, the export will also contain information about the user information and information about all the user, which is a regular export. You could already using it the system now, right? One update we have done there is that we also have options, or we also have a link to the call recording as well, and that's been one of the updates we have done along with the GDPR. So now, if you have recorded the calls with the permission from your customers, you will also be able to get those links as well. So now you could probably download them offline and use it for training and coaching purposes with your sales organization, right? So the next question would be regarding will deletion in fresh sales impact user registrations in Freshdesk, right? As of today, the deletion of the fresh sales user does not impact Freshdesk, but I think we are moving towards a organization mode where we bring in the fresh ID. We launched unified authentication, but you would see us go in the direction. But as of now, the deletion of user in the fresh sales and the Freshdesk are independent. So let me take another question here from Patrick. If the people that we target are in US, but our company is in Europe, is then only employee data that we need to worry about? Yes, the answer is yes. So you would primarily have to worry about the employee data here, and that's also pretty sensitive in terms of personal information. In fact, that's what you need to worry about. But in general, it's a good practice to have opt-in and as part of your best practice, because there are other regions across the globe which also have similar best practice but not mandate. So I think in US, if you're doing business, we would still suggest you if you could accommodate the opt-in as well. But as a GDPR compliance, you don't have to worry about it. So let me take another question about opt-in, right? For example, so as of today, I think we have introduced opt-in for email, right? In the future, we're going to bring in opt-in for phone and other things as well.
Yeah, Shri, just to add to that, if you want more granular level opt-ins, right, you can always create custom fields and store those opt-in, whatever opt-in you want in those custom fields. It's just that we won't have any automated setup behind the scenes that will, enable you to restrict sending emails. But even then, you always can have exit conditions in sales campaigns, condition checks in workflows. And in email also, you can make those checks while sending the email. So you can obviously keep different consent granular level, but it won't act as a blanket thing, or inside we won't do anything. But still, you can use specials to store those consent.
Yes, I think like when I mentioned, I think being a CRM, you could all with the option of creating custom fields. You could customize it for your specific needs. You could probably choose to create a custom field for specific emails, or you want to create multiple opt-ins for various reasons. You could create a custom field, but out of the box, we provide only one opt-in built in, which is specifically for email, which would control the emails which you send out based on the subscription or unsubscription of your customers. I mean, just to be more clear and specific there, right? And we'll take one more question here. Do we always need the unsubscribe button, even in individual mails with contacts? Yes, if you are sending individual emails or bulk emails or through sales campaigns, if you have to be compliant for GDPR, and if you're sending them to customers in Europe, right, and if they are like EU citizens, it is mandatory to have unsubscribe button, right? Even in the individual mails, I think it is definitely the the recommendation in that sense. In fact, if you already have collected information about your contacts from the past, right? And if you could also, it's a good exercise to carry on to see how many of them are opt-in, or how many are not there. Probably engage with them and see if you could get an opt-in permissions for them as well. Kind of just to do a clear audit on your data is probably important given the GDPR impact, right?
Another question we have from Hazal Sri. They're asking, can I export all user info simply into a readable document?
Yes. So can I just repeat the question to be clear? So can I export all user info into a readable document so that can be sent to user if he asked?
So we have a complete account level info export. So once you do a account level export, you will have everything, all the account data exported. But it won't be easy to filter out each user's data separately to send them.
Yes, I think as of today, like when I was mentioning today, we don't have an option to export specific user data as a document. So that's not available today in the system. So what you would have to do is you would do a complete export and then filter it out from that. So we have 3 more minutes. We probably can take a couple more questions here. So let's say I think one question which you have seen asked by a couple of our customers that where do you think is this webinar being recorded and where is it available? Yes, this webinar has been recorded, and we will send you an email like post the webinar probably tomorrow or in a day with a link to the webinar from where you could download or probably listen this recording, right? One, and we'll take one more question. So this question is regarding the workflow. So does workflow emails automatically be stopped if the opt-in is not enabled? Yeah, the answer is yes. Just to give you more specific, if the opt-in permissions are enabled in admin settings, and as a business you mandate that you wanted to have you want to enforce the opt-in permission, and if you have a lead or a contact who was unsubscribed, you like all the automations, including the workflow and the sales campaign, would not go live. So which means that we will only send emails to those leads and contacts who have the opt-in enabled, right? And I'll take one last question here. About the transfer. I think there's a couple of questions about user deletion here. I think we'll take one about user deletion. I think, is it mandatory to do the transfer of records to another user before we delete it, right? The answer is it's up to your business. It also depends upon the responsibility of the salesperson. If he's been very active in your organization and he's been actively pursuing a lot of deals and opportunities for you, it is recommended that you would transfer all the records which are important for your business continuity into anybody else and then delete the user. So thanks everybody. I think this is kind of the closing session here. So we're going to close with one quick note. We've been having a very terrific time here. Thanks for everybody for joining us. And if we have not answered any of your question, we will send you an email tomorrow with an answer for all of them. We had kind of a lot of interaction here, and we hope you also enjoy the session. And if you have any questions and if you need any help with respect to the GDPR and how you want to configure some of the features, we kind of did a demo here. Please reach out to our support. And thank you from everybody here.
Thank you all. It was a great session.